Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Jump Up Supercast Game Club. My name is Brandon. I am not only your host, but I am the best junker in all of Neo Kobe City. And joining me today, we have Will.
Please pay no attention as I apply copious amounts of sunscreen.
Very suspicious. And we have Ilse.
This episode is dedicated to all those cyberpunks who fight against injustice and corruption every day of their lives.
Thank God. Where would we be without him? And we have Noah.
I hate Snow 9.
Very good intro, guys. Very, very good. Very good. I appreciate all the references to a little video game called Snatcher.
Hey,
Yeah.
So that is the game we played this week for the Game Club. And this game was released all the way back in 1988, actually. The year I was born. It was actually released just before I was born. November 26, 1988. And it was developed by Konami, published by Konami, and was originally released on the PC-8801 and the MSX2.
But we didn't play
heard of the PC-81, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Those were some PCs, I think, that were gaming PCs that were like only popular really in Japan, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We didn't play that version. It was also released on the PC Engine. Also, we didn't play that version either. But it was eventually released on the Sega CD, which is the version that we did play. That was released in like 94, 95. It was ported to the Sega CD. And that's the one we played. It also eventually got ported to the PS1 and the Sega Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been on a lot of systems. Has not been released since then. I think those are the only ways you can play it. I don't think there's any other version.
I believe so.
I think I did. Was it the TurboGrafx thing that's coming out soon that has one of them has Snatcher on it?
Yeah, because the PC Engine in Japan is the TurboGrafx.
Right.
Does
Yeah.
it? Interesting.
Yeah, so it's going to be released on that, but I think it's either only the Japanese version or it's going to have it, but only in Japanese, which is like, why?
Yeah, the Sega CD version is the only version to ever get an English translation. So.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it's not the Japanese version. That'd be very...
I'm pretty sure it is, because I'm pretty sure I was excited at first.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't played the game at the time, and I looked it up, and I was like, wow, that's dumb.
Well, I mean, I just worry about the censorship issues.
It did get censored a little bit.
I'm worried
here.
about, if they've got the Japanese version, I'm worried about more of not being able to read any of the text.
Oh, man.
Yeah, which is super important. If you want to play this game, you need to play it in your native language, because it is an adventure game. Basically like a visual novel of sorts. And yeah, you need to be able to read your native language to play this game. There's no way around it. But this game, like I said, graphic novel, visual novel, whatever you want to call it, adventure game, and you play as a gentleman. His name is Gillian Seed. And, that's the main character of the game, and he basically he's a policeman, but he's known as a junker. I'll get into that in a second, but I just want to say
He likes trash. That's basically it. No.
Takes out the trash. This is a game that I picked. Okay, and I guess I usually ask the person who picked it why they picked it, so I'll explain. I had just never played this game, and it's always been a game that I heard a lot about. I've heard people say, I'm a big fan of adventure games and visual novels and of sorts. So I've always heard good things about people who have played this game, and that it was really solid. And it's also a Kojima joint. Hideo Kojima was.
You don't have to say it like that.
I will never not call it.
You don't have
Kojima.
to say it like that. Right?
Kojima joint. That's what I'm going to call him forever. He was the lead designer, lead head of the game.
Writer,
yeah. And you can tell when you play this game, that's for sure.
Well, you can tell at the end for sure.
I think so. This was like maybe his second game, because I think it might have just been after the original Metal Gear.
I think that I think it was 2. I think it was 1 and 2 that it was after. if I remember right.
So
But either way.
one of his first games, at least.
Yeah.
You know, his first non-Metal Gear game. So early Kojima. I don't know how old is Kojima anyway. That's what I kind of want to know, because
I think he's late 50s.
yeah, because he must have been pretty young when this game first came out.
56, so mid 50s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was just a young scrap, first getting in the game at the time. And
Well, this game is sort of kind of on the Metal Gear timeline.
It's it's a little.
I mean, they do
Yeah.
mention it in like the Pro League. Like they mention like the disaster of like the 21st century or something.
Yeah.
The 20th century.
And
I
the-
think that's
yeah.
something different.
No, I think Harry mentions it when he tells you about the Metal Gear robot.
He
You know,
does.
character.
He does. So
Yeah.
yeah, Metal Gear. There is a character named Metal Gear in the
Metal
game.
Gear
and
Mark
it's-
II.
Yeah, a little robot navigator that you have. That every junker has like a little companion and a little robot, and yours is named Metal Gear, which obviously reference to Metal Gear Solid or not Metal Gear Solid, but Metal Gear series. And yeah, I think Harry mentions it. He says, "Oh, we named him after the Metal Gear robots that used to exist." So it takes place in the same universe. Very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then like Benson, your boss, said he used to be a member of Foxhound.
Foxhound, yeah.
And like that's a whole other thing.
And
I don't.
And the club in the place is called Outer Heaven, which is another
But
reference.
also, Benson's like in his 20s.
Yeah, I sort of think of it like Sid in Final Fantasy. Like there's these things that are named that, but like they're not the same things. Was sort of how I viewed it.
Yeah.
But because otherwise the timeline makes no sense. None of it.
Yeah,
None of
'cause
it
I think
adds up.
this game takes place in 2047.
Yeah.
Is the year that they say at the beginning of the game. Which
Benson's in his 50s.
I thought okay. So I read the instruction booklet, and maybe it was an error, but it said he was in his 20s.
He did not feel.
Well, there are
definitely
technically there are
in his
two
50s.
Bensons. Harry and the Chief both have the last name Benson. Remember?
They're both in their 50s.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I knew Harry was, but the chief I read in the instruction book said he was in his 20s, which I was like,
That may be his age.
Didn't
as
give
a
off that impression.
Snatcher.
Oh boy. Spoiler alert.
So we should explain why when you play this game. Basically, like I said, Gillian Seed, the main character, he is a junker, is part of a special police task force who is trying to take down Snatchers, which the game is named after. And Snatchers are these robots who go around and murder people and take their identities and live alongside everybody else as the person whose identity they've stolen. So junkers' jobs are to go around and kill Snatchers. Really, that's it. That's what their job is. They have to, basically like they're detectives. They try to find them, and they are just out to kill them.
Well,
They don't take them in or anything.
Well, specifically, the whole group, everybody in the group is a junker, but he's a runner of the junkers. If that makes sense.
Sure,
it's
sure,
very
sure.
weird.
Who are
It's
like
dumb.
on the streets kind of
A
people.
Yeah.
runner. Though this is what really got me, because okay, so you're in Neo-Kobe City, big city in Japan, like a futuristic city, right? And you're part of the Junker Task Force, and you're a runner. You in the beginning of the game, it's like your first day on the job, right? You just became a runner, and there's not very many people in this task force.
No.
There's
7.
yeah, which is like, to me, I'm like, okay, if they're really having a big problem with Snatchers in this city, why the hell is there so few people working here? Like, you meet the receptionist, Mika. You have the chief. You have Harry, who's like, the tech, the guy who designs all your weapons and everything. And then there's another runner,
John.
and then you.
Gene.
Yeah.
John?
Gene.
I don't know.
Gene. I think it's
One of
Gene.
those.
I don't know.
Gene.
Yeah. And
Gene
And
Jack?
I'm like, why is there not more people here? I don't get it. It's just weird to me. But you find out really quickly in the game that there's a lot of shit going down, and it's interesting. It's interesting. Basically, the way the game plays out, if you played an adventure game before, you just select options, you talk to people, you search stuff, you investigate things. Just by a text box, a text on the screen. You select options and you do them. And the game has voice acting in it as well. And
Very good voice acting, especially for its
surprisingly
time.
good. Yeah.
yeah, it really, really was. Like, caught me off guard how good it was, because back in the early 90s, especially when the Sega CD came out, it was most games, like, acting was really campy, you know, and like voice acting wasn't a thing that was very prevalent in video games at the time. And when it was really bad quality and usually just bad voice acting. But no, this game had good quality in the CD, you know, quality, because it was a Sega CD game. So it sound, you know, obviously doesn't sound as good as like nowadays, but for the time, it's like, holy shit.
You can make out what they're saying, which was a step above a lot of its, you know, peers at the time.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, I mean, it's actually like pretty effective. Like it's easy to listen to. It never gets too campy. I mean, it's fun. You know, they have some good banter going on. It's a pretty, I mean, decently good writing between the characters.
Yeah. Which is a big deal, because obviously, in an adventure game like this, like slash, you know, graphic novel, like, it lives and dies a lot by the characters, and you know, a lot of them are like Gillian, right? Because this game takes a ton from Blade Runner, right? It's just, you know,
main character, you know, dude's wearing a trench coat, like very much.
Yeah, very much Deckard.
Yeah.
But I think, like, partially because the voice acting, like, there's just enough camp for me where, like, I think it makes it more charming and I like it more, right? Like, Gillian's more of a goofball than Harrison Ford is, you know?
Yeah.
But,
oh yeah.
But especially because he has, you know, the Metal Gear companion, like, both of them are just kind of like half bumbling idiots, half smart guys, like stumbling their way through this.
Yeah, like very buddy cop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works very well. Like the Metal Gear and Gillian, the banter between them throughout the game is just really good, and especially in like little extra scenes that you get while investigating.
Oh yeah,
it's really charming. I really end up liking both of them a lot.
Another pairing that works really well is Gillian and Jamie, his wife. Whenever you call her, like it's actually pretty strong. Yeah, you actually feel like they have a connection there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Especially the beginning of the game, you learn that Gillian has amnesia, and so does Jamie. Both of them. They were married.
And they're supposedly married, yeah.
Yeah, but they're separated because they don't really know anything about each other. So they're like, well, you know, I guess we'll be separated for now until we try to get our shit sorted.
Which kind of begs the question, like, how did they know they were married if they had amnesia as soon as they got out?
Yeah,
I think they were told.
Told by who?
Because we're entering like we're entering like heavy spoiler territory, so beware, listeners. But yeah, like the whole like towards the end, they explain that they were found in the whole like the lab in the cryogenesis state.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
But there's no reason for you to connect these two people. Say,
there might be some legal records that when the military told
that
them,
and
you know.
well, I mean, they probably did wake up at this, like they woke up together and they explained who are you, what are we, is like, oh, you guys were married or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, how would they know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna.
They can say they just knew they were
records
connected,
somewhere.
right? Because they woke up together. But the specific marriage thing is a little unexplained. But but there is a thing that, like, the writing is actually really nice in those scenes. I like where Jamie sort of like, because Gillian, his fatal flaw is women. He's very bad with them.
Very much.
Yeah.
But when he's talking to her, he's sort of like, let's get back together. And she's not like shutting him down, but she's like, we can't right now. Like, this isn't a thing. Like, she clearly still like has some leftover affection for him, but like knows better at this moment. And like, I was like, oh, that's a neat, like, complex emotion for a character to be feeling in this moment, right? Like, she kind of wants to too, but she knows it wouldn't work right now.
Yeah, it added some weight to the game. Like, it wasn't just all like shits and giggles, even though, you know, it wasn't just like a separation between like, oh, we're just having jokes and then gory, bloody murder. It was, you know, there's a emotional arc to it too.
Yeah, and you mentioned gory, bloody murder, and there was a lot of that in this game. And it's surprising how gory it is. And we mentioned censorship earlier and how this game was censored in America, and it actually got censored, but they made it more brutal.
Well,
which is so,
I mean,
you know, it's they censored some of the things, like small amount of nudity, but also they there's a scene early in the game where there's a beheading, and they made the beheading more violent looking than it was in the Japanese version.
It's like on screen the whole time the head is like this.
Yeah, and there's a stump like where his head was, that's not there at all in the Japanese version.
It's kind of jarring. Like, I can't believe they went for it so quickly. Like, it's like 15 minutes into the game, and you just
they throw you in the deep end.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like nothing
like,
suggests that the game is going to be that violent. Then all of a sudden you see a fucking head on the ground.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh jeez.
Yeah, I think if you're squeamish, honestly, you would kind of be turned off by it at that point, because it's really violent and it's really detailed and gory.
Yeah. But I mean, I liked it. It set the stakes really high early on.
Oh, no,
I was into it.
It quickly tells you, like, shit's gonna go down if you ain't careful.
Yeah, and these snatchers are fucking dangerous.
Yeah. Speaking of the Snatchers, they look like fucking Terminators, and I love it.
They do. There's a lot of influence from stuff, popular pop culture at the time. Like we said, Blade Runner, and definitely Terminator is part of that as well.
Well, in the original version, I believe they looked more like Terminators because they had like red eyes, and then they recolored it when it came to America.
So gotta watch out for that copyright.
I mean, green eyes work too.
Yeah.
No, I thought it still worked well, and they do like, because the idea of like, it's not a story that's been told. It's been told before, right? Like there's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, even in Blade Runner, the replacing people, but like. It's a really good setup for a detective thing, right? Because it sort of puts the situation of like, do you trust anyone? Like, if mysteriously people can get replaced in the middle of the night, and like the city, I think they do a pretty good job of like, it's already cyberpunk dystopia, like it's very grungy. I think they do a good job of that, but like, they're on edge. Like they even mention like the city's closed off, like no one's sort of allowed in or out because they don't know, if someone's leaving, if that'll be a secret snatcher and start a whole, global crisis. And
basically, the whole world is worried about the snatcher crisis, and they've quarantined Neo Kobe City off. So
and
think it's an isolated island.
Yeah,
which just brings to the question that if the whole world's so worried about it, why the fuck is the task force so small?
Yeah.
So, the thing also is that you have the junkers, right? But you also have people who are doing. You can register as a bounty hunter in the city and make yourself a lot of money. I guess it was explained. People can become bounty hunters and they can do it legally and just go around killing snatchers.
You okay there? Okay.
Is it good? Is it gone?
I have no idea. I hope so.
Nope.
So just wait until that passes.
What is this? SD Snatcher? Oh, the fucking SD Snatcher game?
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, that's like a RPG.
Well, no, it's the radio drama.
Gibson,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, the radio drama. They also released another Snatcher game I think it was called SD Snatcher.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, Suda51 wrote this radio play, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I remember reading about it.
Yeah, in interviews he says the Snatcher was like one of the things that helped him want to get into game development.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's all about Gibson. Oh, we got Little John in there.
Little John.
Yeah, it's a prequel, I think.
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
It's kind of cool.
Fingers crossed.
Because you really don't know anything about him. He just dies like right off. Like,
yeah.
You don't even get to meet him. And another thing I want to mention too, part of the gameplay that we haven't talked about yet is that it has these parts that are almost like action segments as well. Mm-hmm. And you basically you're already in first person throughout the whole game, and there's parts where you have to take out your blaster and shoot at stuff, and usually the game gives you a pretty good indication of when to do so. It's kind of weird. So it's like you play it with your controller. You move this cursor that always snaps back to the middle, and you just hold the direction and press a button to shoot. You have to press a button to take your gun out, which I think is A.
Yeah,
and then you press C to shoot.
I mean, I liked it.
Yeah,
It's kind of strange.
Kind of strange.
I don't know. It's like
Yeah, it's obviously it's built around being able to use a light gun, which this game you were able to do on the Sega CD version. The Sega CD version supports the Justifier light gun that was packed in with Lethal Enforcers, which is also a Konami game.
right, which they reference in this game.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was built around it, considering I believe it was probably in the other versions of the game. But the original versions of it. So I don't know if it was built with it in mind, but you can on the Sega CD version use it, which I would love to have done, which would have been cool. Right. But yeah, I would say it gets freaking difficult at the end of the game.
And long.
They demand a lot out of you at that last section. Holy shit, there's so many enemies that come flying towards the screen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God you don't need to reload. Because in the hospital part with going through the air ducts, when the spiders attack you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like before then, I was always doing like precision shots, so I would aim, shoot once, then return to the middle to wait for the next spider to appear.
Right.
But like sometimes it wouldn't shoot, or it'd shoot too late, and I'd get stunned and get thrown off, like my rhythm.
Same.
So after that, I was just like, "Fuck that!" I just fucking button mashed the shit out of the shooting button, and just shot everything. Like just going around.
It did. Once you got hit, it like fucked you up.
Oh man, that was so annoying. And then sometimes like the gun just wouldn't fire, so I just started, rapid firing, and there was no downside to it. So
there's no downside. You
just
don't have
press
to
it
reload
as fast as you can.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how you got through them. One thing I really did like though is during those sections, Gillian would always comment like how many times he got hit during them, like after. Mm-hmm. Be like, "Hey, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I only got hit once." Yeah. Or I got hit 3 times. I'm feeling a little that kind of hurt. Like it's cool that he'll comment on whatever happened during the gunfights.
Yeah. Regarding the taking out your gun thing, I wish the game kind of like did more with that, where there were like situations where you weren't sure, like when you should shoot or when you shouldn't shoot. I mean, they did it like at the very end. Well, you shouldn't shoot, your wife, but
one time right at the end of the game is one part where you shouldn't.
And with
shoot.
Mika, when the chief has her.
Oh, that's it.
But I mean, you have to be shooting at that point.
Yeah.
So there's no ambiguity.
I kind of wanted to shoot her to see what would happen, but I didn't feel like game over.
Because like the one rule of being a junker is you can't harm actual people. You can kill snatchers all you want, but don't harm people. And it would be cool if they had those moments of like, I'm not a snatcher. No, I'm not a snatcher. And like in that moment, you have to make a decision, things like that. Because there even is a part where you suspect 2 different people are snatchers, but there's
2 times they do that.
Yeah.
True.
I kind of wish that you could like at any point take out your gun.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
To threaten or like, because there's certain characters that like they're giving you false information, like we mentioned. Like he does it in a cutscene where he points a gun to him and is like, "Talk now." Like, who are you?
Straight down the dude's mouth.
Down into his mouth. Holy shit.
Yeah, and it's like I wish he could have actually done that, like not cinematically, and just us being like threatening with the gun is like, "We'll shoot," or you shoot on like to the left of him, to the right of him, just to scare him, just to make him talk. That kind of thing. That would have been a cool implementation, and like actually take care, like make use of that mechanic a lot more.
I think from what I read, like that the shooting sections were added later. I don't think they were in the original version, which may be why, right?
Oh.
But I think that it was, but like if they were doing it, because I think part of it too was Konami like sold this, was peripheral, and they're like, we need to have something else justify this, right? Which is part of the reason it came to America at all, I think, actually, which is weird.
So how did they resolve? Well, I don't know if you know this, but how did they resolve the conflicts?
I don't know. I think they just happened. I think just like Gillian does it instead of like you doing it, which is but it was interesting because this game has like a ton of weird little things, right? Like that had to get changed, like because they were worried about copyright. You go to Outer Heaven, which is a bar, right? Oh, yeah. And I thought this was funny. Yeah. There's just a ton of Konami characters there, right?
Which is great.
Super good.
Those weren't Konami characters in the original release. They were like they were a xenomorph from Alien and like Kamen Rider and a bunch of like characters they definitely didn't own. And they're like, U.S. copyright law is way harsher. We should make this thing so we're not in trouble. So here's Rocket Knight instead of Kamen Rider, you know?
Yeah. Well,
which honestly I like.
I like the change. Yeah, I like.
Yeah.
This is better.
Yeah, and Goemon was there.
Yeah.
And Dracula and Simon.
Yeah.
Which is
The
funny 'cause
guys from Contra.
yeah. I really liked also just like all of Neo Kobe City as a like environment to be in. Because there's parts where you're just sort of like doing investigation, walking around, and there's a lot of stuff that isn't like progress, but it does, I think, it still remained interesting because, you know, it was just neat to see these little interactions and learn little pieces about this world. Like there's just a part where you get like a floating pizza, and like there's a whole process I don't even understand about how you make this pizza.
Sounded disgusting.
That part was great. And Gillian's, it's supposed to come float back up, and Gillian's like super mad because his didn't.
Yeah. That was also another part that I found in Alton Plaza. You can go around and search and look at the people, and one of the ladies there gives you like a napkin with a phone number on it. You call like a love line, and then you can do like, this whole thing. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I did that
scene.
too. Yeah.
He wants like a date.
Funny.
Yeah. If you keep calling them, they give you different things. They give you different scenes. It's pretty.
Yeah,
funny.
I had one time I called the love line, and the girl like just like fucking completely owned Gillian.
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah.
You could
you
also call
get,
Konami. I liked the phone number, the feature, right? Because there's
video phone. Yeah.
in the plaza. There's like a giant billboard, and there's like one. It's like call Konami. You call them up, and it's really just they basically just thank you for playing the game, and it's really cool.
Yeah, and there are a lot of little like side conversations, little quirks that really fill out the world. Make it
like
feel
while searching for like the informant that you're supposed to meet up with Napoleon. You like in the same area where you would like find out about the phone numbers, about the hotline and everything. If you keep investigating the city, you come across an option like unlocks for Gillian to look and try to flirt with different women. And so it's just like a lot of little extra scenes, and some of them are really funny.
Yeah. It's cute.
Yeah. Metal Gear constantly reminding him you're a married man.
Yeah.
And he's just like, well, we're kind of separated, and it's funny. And he's just getting shot down like left and right.
He's a horn dog. What can you do?
Yeah, he is. And I like, so the game takes place in December, which it's near Christmas. So it's very like Die Hard in that aspect, where it's like it takes place around Christmas, but it has nothing to do with the fact that it is Christmas.
One of those songs is basically Jingle Bells.
Yeah, the plaza, they just straight up play Jingle Bells while you're there.
Yeah. Well, the fact that it's in winter kind of plays a little bit of a role because
it does.
Sunscreen.
It's true.
Yeah.
True.
Because I guess we should worth mentioning I actually like this the one thing that the Snatchers cannot replicate as well is human skin. And so, like, they degrade faster, so they mostly come out at night, and the reason why is because the sun harms their skin faster, and they develop melanoma. And so, like, a tell for Snatchers is, like, putting on sunscreen even when you don't need it.
Yeah,
like in the middle of
the dead of winter, yeah.
In the dead of winter, yeah. And I thought it was a neat thing where, like, when you go to those two people's houses, the one guy, like, has, like, a surfboard and has, like, suntan lotion, and that's when you're like, okay, this is not the guy. Like,
you're like, this guy's super tan. If it, there's no way a Snatcher would be able to get this tan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is cool. I definitely did like that, and you get to see all of it in John's research when you're going through, which I really liked.
I'm happy that they did explain like where the Snatchers came from, even if like the part where they do explain it gets a little the end of the game is there's a lot of talking and there's not a lot of doing.
There's 3 acts of the game. The first 2 acts you play through, you discover things, you investigate, you have to figure out where to go next. Third act is just an hour plus of cinematic.
It's very short. It's very short, and half of it is cinematics.
Well, that's another one that wasn't there in the like original version.
Yeah, and I read that the original script called for 6 chapters, and Konami was like, "Fuck no."
Shit.
Yeah,
that would have been awesome.
Yeah, because this game is pretty long for an adventure game. Like I think, especially at the time, and for like how much stuff they poured into it.
Like a 6 to 8 hour game.
Yeah,
about that.
Yeah. Especially with having to do all the voice acting, I imagine they were looking at the cost for doing 6, and they're like, "No, we're good." But no thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the original version, they only had the first 2 acts, and then in the Sega CD version, or I think the Sega CD version had the most recent version of the game, which had the 3 acts. that we played.
Which is funny because it's on a cliffhanger.
True. Yeah. Very.
Kinda. Well, I mean, there is a conclusion to that specific story that was going on. Whereas if they had ended in Act 2, that would have been like, well, I guess we didn't really solve anything. We're back to square one. That's it.
True. Yeah, the Act 2 would have been a worse cliffhanger, but
way worse.
But
yeah.
at the end, he's still like, "Oh, I have this extra mission to do," and then I was thinking like, "Oh, maybe this game's not over, even though this is like a 20-minute cutscene." And well, it's
Well,
over.
yeah, well, like the whole Snatcher problem isn't completely uprooted and done, so it kind of leaves them room for like a sequel, whatever. But at least like the whole situation that was going on in New Oklahoma City has been resolved, so you get some conclusion.
I just wish the whole thing was over. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind
would
these
say
kind of
maybe a
endings.
sequel, but I doubt it's ever going to happen.
That's what I mean. It's like I don't mind this kind of endings because it leaves room for them to make a sequel,
Sure.
but they never did.
Yeah, it would be weird to resolve like that because you find out that Gillian and Jamie were frozen along, and that they were, like, because there's actually a few little neat hints. Like you see a poster of Jamie at the Moscow Olympics, and he's like, that was forever ago. Like this doesn't make sense. But then that they were all part of the team that worked on the Snatchers, but the Gillian was like a secret CIA agent, a lot of stuff. It's all in the 20th century, but that it was originally planned to like have whole just cities be replaced by Snatchers in the middle of the night, and that's why they made the Lucifer Alpha, which is the thing that like was the big apocalypse ruiner, basically, that like killed like half the world's population or whatever it was.
Yeah.
right. We probably didn't mention this, but like before the start of the game, half the world's population is pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it is neat that like it's not just like, why are the Snatchers here? Like a corporation just made them. It's like, oh, like no, like there was like a evil, there was a larger machination that was to making these robots.
Yeah, it's like basically Russia was trying to it was in the Cold War with the States or America or the world, whatever, and they were building this as a plan to take over, and then all of a sudden the whole Cold War ended, and it was like, okay, we don't need to do this anymore, and one guy basically flipped out, no, I'm going to save the store, I'm going to do it, and took charge of it and continued with it. Which
and the reason why he flipped out made me roll my eyes so hard.
Yeah. But also because they hired all these different researchers from around the world, some against their will. So Jamie was one of those researchers that helped develop the Snatchers. It makes me really squint my eyes and raise my eyebrows because in the cutscenes, once she gets her memories back and she remembers all the things she's done, she regrets it tremendously and hates that she did it. But if that was the case, then why did she do it voluntarily at the beginning when she joined the team?
Don't ask too many questions; it'll fall apart.
That threw me off completely.
Yeah. I don't think she played a role in Lucifer Alpha, at least, right? Like, at least she doesn't have to have the thing of I killed half the world's population. But you were on the team. It's weird. It is because Gillian.
Well, Gillian went there to sabotage it. That was the whole thing.
He's a CIA guy.
Yeah.
He's in the clear.
But that's the thing. They put Jamie in there. Kojima put Jamie in there to be the morale person, to explain to Gillian, to be the person that's like, oh, we did a terrible thing. Oh, I remember everything. But it's it kind of contradicts herself to her past self. It's it still works, but it's just one of those things that just lingers in my mind. It's why?
I will say, overall, scenario writing is not Kojima's strong suit, I would think. That's what I've learned playing Kojima games. He does character writing a little bit better, but
he does very good characters. He makes you invested and care about these characters. He gives them good personalities and
yes, for sure.
Good. Yeah.
And
I would
sort of
agree with that in
cliffhanger
this game.
is-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that
mentioning.
keeps it going.
And it's worth the cliffhanger that we kept alluding to is that they say, oh, there's a bigger Snatcher base at Moscow, and he's like, I'm gonna go do that, and that is clearly sequel planning, right?
But if there's a big Snatcher base in Moscow, how aren't they all over the world by now?
That's a good question.
They probably are. They just don't know it.
So weird.
It gets out of hand very quickly.
The expanded Snatcher universe, man.
Yeah.
It's one thing right after the other. First, we don't hire enough junkers to take care of the Snatcher problem because it's such a big problem, apparently, and Yeah.
Well, the one way you could justify it is that, spoilers, like we said, the chief is a snatcher, so it might be a thing where he's sort of like, because he even says, like, before you go and you end up killing him, that he was going to go give a conference where he says, don't worry, the snatcher problem isn't that big of a deal, you shouldn't be worried, you should open up the borders. So it might be a thing where, like, because they put the guy there, he's constantly downplaying how big the issue is, we don't need any more than these two people.
The thing is, the chief has only been like a recent snatcher.
Yeah.
It's like he was only dead for like a month. So what was he doing like the 3 years that this whole fucking thing has been going on?
Maybe he was dumb and that's how he got snatched.
I would think so. I really like the twist that, the whole Act 2, scenario with the chief becoming a snatcher. I love that.
Act 2 was awesome. All of it. It
and
was
especially
really
the end part. Fucking top notch.
Mm-hmm. So, we didn't even talk about Random Hajile, which is a very Kojima name. He is a bounty hunter that shows up throughout the game a couple of times, and he kind of befriends you. And, man, there's just some really cool shit in that second act. Like, you get into your car, it's called the turbo cycle, and it was sabotage, and it won't stop, and it's going to crash, and, and that was a very fun part to play. You're doing all these options, and, they're a little bit taking the piss out of it, because there's a lot of jokes going on in there, oh, I'm going to jump out, and Metal's like, no, you what are you talking about? You'll die, and all this stuff, and it's just literally one option where it's just like, give up.
Pray to God.
Pray to God. And then Random comes by on his motorcycle, and he's like, come on, you gotta jump, and it's like, he saves you, and you get into the part where you and Random are basically you're investigating together, and then he's like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself and blow myself up, and you're just like, damn, this is a cool dude, I really like this guy.
Yeah. I want to get him because I liked him so much, right? Like I want to figure out this whole mystery and get and do everything. And it's cool because you do have, like we said, what's his name, Jean, when he first gets, or Jean, whenever you first meet him, whenever you see him die, but you never get to meet him really, right? When you go to meet him, he's already dead, and so it was nice to have a character that you were invested in also like die for it.
Well, that also happens to Harry.
Yeah,
Harry.
But you're right. Yeah.
Oh, Harry's awesome too. But but then spoilers. I mean, Random is. There's even more stuff going on with him at the very end of the game.
Yeah.
He's got Alucard syndrome.
Yeah. He's the perfect snatcher.
Elijah Mander.
Modner.
Elijah Modner.
Yeah.
God, it's just because he's the dude's name spelled backwards, and you're just like, oh god, here we go.
He's also the good version, the good son of whatever.
Of the guy that's
his
behind
dad
the whole
made
thing,
him as a way to make fun of his son. It's a whole thing, and it sort of is like, it's in the last, that little cutscene, and you're like, would have been nice if that dad or anyone else was introduced before we get to this point, really.
Well, I think that's probably part of the problem with the original version only having 2 acts or ending at Act 2. That's why you didn't get introduced to like those other characters.
Yeah.
They just kind of had to. It was just like an info dump right at the end.
I was mentioning this to Brandon last night. It was like, I kind of wish the third act they kind of like broke it up a little bit more, like ease in with the info, like have you investigate more areas, come up with more clues that lead you to these conclusions instead of just like shoving it all in your face.
Yeah.
But it's understandable if it was like the last thing they added, like to the version.
Yeah, because from what I read, even like Act 3 existing at all was sort of a thing that like they had to push for. I think Kojima and a couple other guys were like, we should do this, and everyone else on the team was like, this game's long enough already, like what are we doing? And so you could see why, like, they're like, okay, you get it, but it's not going to be that long, like so it feels like it had to be a compromise, and you could feel it in the actual game itself.
I mean, overall, I guess I'm glad that they did do it.
Oh no, yeah. Well, again, 100%. I'm glad that we got the third act, because it would have been a really bad cliffhanger if they stopped at Act 2.
True, but Act 2 is a lot better than Act 3. I'll just say that much. It's a way stronger portion of the game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Act 2 was fucking awesome. I just wish it could have kept going,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, and I want to talk about the music as well. I really like the music, like especially just the opening of the game, right? Because the opening like was almost like this like movie. They had like the credit roll, with all the characters' names and the actors. and like that song was like that song had me bump in my head. I was like, this is good. You know, it's just had some really good some good tunes to it, and the graphics as well were just like fucking solid for the time for the sprite work.
Yeah,
really
well realized.
Fucking early '90s, they were fucking amazing. Really good.
In addition to the good music, I would say it also had good sound effects, because every time you heard that sound that Metal Gear would play, that motion detector sound, that you know a Snatcher's nearby, it kind of builds the tension really well. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that combined with the music really got you like. Yeah. Honestly, like playing it with headphones on and you're just sitting there in the dark and you're even like, shit.
It would freak me out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's good.
The Snatchers were creepy, man.
Very creepy. Like, if I had played this, I can guarantee you, if I had played this when I was a kid, I'd be fucking terrified of Snatchers.
Yeah.
I also would have been, like, my mind would have been blown if I had played this back in the early 90s. Like, I would have been like, holy shit, video games could be like this, look like this.
Yeah.
You know, because
you can see how people, like, got mega attached to this game. Like, it is a cult classic because it didn't sell super well, but you can see why the people that did play it were like, yo, you need to play Snatcher.
Right.
Which is cool.
Which is like, it just makes me look at the Sega CD, right? Because like it was way ahead of its time. And Sega, honestly, I always give them credit for like them just being ahead. They were too ahead of the time most of the time with a lot of their technologies. And like, it wasn't always there. But they also like, because it wasn't there, they would focus on the wrong stuff, right? Like most Sega CD games, when you think of it, it's like all these shitty like FMV games. That for the most part didn't play out well. There was some good ones like Wing Commander and Night Trap, but like a lot of them, even Night Trap's very campy, but a lot of them were just like so fucking bad, but like they could have focused on like sprite work and just like making really, really good shit that was like way ahead of the time, but they didn't. They just didn't. It was just like, look what we can do in the wrong stuff, and I think it just kind of turn people off because it honestly
and a lot of it's aged really poorly, but Snatcher really hasn't in my mind.
No, it looks great.
Not at all.
And there's a lot of Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, this guy's really into, like
getting drunk.
Getting drunk. He was really into that, but also he was really into like, early century stuff.
Right, because that's when he grew up. Spoilers: he's actually your son.
Yeah, he's a kid.
Yeah.
Which is a weird twist and actually kind of deep.
It's weird because they don't really build up any relationship towards Harry at all. Like, you just interact with him in the beginning, he gives you a blaster and that's it. And he like grieves you when one of the guy John dies. But yeah, and then all of a sudden like he dies and you're like, oh no, Harry, I love you. Why did you die?
I think they did enough for that, but they didn't do enough to establish that it was like a serious loss because he's like your son, because you don't find out until after he's dead.
It would have been. I feel like if you had found out just before, that would have been perfect.
Would have been a lot better.
I do think it's a little like bittersweet, the thing where at the end he does have his little soliloquy where he's like, I never opened myself up to people, I never knew my parents, I never like was willing to form a connection with people, and I'm going to die alone, basically, right?
Yeah.
And it's like there is something ironic that like later you find out, no, he was with his dad in his final moments, but like he never knew that.
Yeah,
it's a strong moment.
Makes it sad,
Yeah.
I would say there's a lot of like cinematic moments in this game, like when you first roll up on that, well, not roll up, but when you first arrive at that factory, like there's like lightning going on. When you're walking through the tunnels with metal, you get that different perspective. You see it from the side. It's pretty great.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely is. There is a lot of really tense moments too, like we mentioned earlier. Like where you just like sitting there playing and you're like,
oh yeah,
and catch you off guard. I got fucking like scared almost, like when that fucking Snatcher that you kill, and then he's like on the ground and he gets back up and starts.
Oh my god.
I was like,
what
fuck. Yeah.
And at the end of Act 1 with the couple, their apartment, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Well,
Yeah, it's like a jump scare.
Yeah,
and especially the part where like you shoot at him while Gillian's being like choked out, and you're like, who's shooting? And then you find out that it's random, and that was like a good reveal.
Well, they kind of trick you. They tell you to shoot at the mirror or like aim through the mirror, but you can't.
Yeah.
No, I was just, again, that was one of those moments where I was like, I was losing health rapidly. I could not aim directly at him for some reason, so I was just fucking shooting everywhere.
I'm interested in like, seeing what the PlayStation and Sega Saturn versions of this game look like, because I never played them. But everybody who talks about this game, usually it's the Sega CD version.
Yeah, I think it's generally like it's viewed as, at least also because it had the big jump forward with the voice acting and everything else, right?
Yeah.
That, like,
I can't imagine like the other versions being that different to make like go through the whole story again, though. Mm-hmm. Unless there's like one giant major change, like adding another act.
Yeah. I don't, which is not a thing. I've looked. It's
Thank God.
Not a thing.
We don't need another act. That's okay.
I would have liked it, to be honest with you.
Save it for the sequel that never comes.
The sequel that we'll never have, but it's okay.
One tiny thing or gripe I have against this game is, I mean, it is a adventure game. You have to figure out where to go next, how to do things. I had a little bit of trouble because I knew there were a lot of moments where I knew exactly what I needed to do, but I didn't know how to make the game prompt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a little frustrating. So, like, one example is, like, where you're in the plaza, like, I have to meet up with this guy. I know I have to, like, search for him, but I would exhaust all the options, and still nothing would happen.
The game legitimately wants and makes you do
wants you to, like, spam,
times.
to spam the same option, like, 7+ times. And it doesn't do it just once, it does it multiple times throughout the game. Like, sometimes at times where it didn't even make sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's those moments where I was like, they could have done that better.
I kind of agree with that.
Because once I exhaust, usually what I do, especially with these type of games where you have to figure out what to do or who to talk to find out what, I exhaust all the options. I was like, okay, obviously it's not here. I go to another area, I exhaust all the options there, and if nothing happens, I'm like, what the fuck? I've done everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is some spots where it's like, the game just expects you have to just do like search and like look at this like 3 times before it will like be like, oh, there's something else here.
Yeah.
Or prompt whatever you need, which that was kind of a pain.
It kind of leaves you like on a wild goose chase, literally.
I think it was my only real issue with like the adventure part of the game was making you do the same things over and over.
Well, I kind of liked that after I figured out that the game expected that of you. Like,
it was definitely easier to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like it, but at the same time, that just meant I didn't know if I should press the same option 5 times before I move to the next option.
Usually, though, it will at least give you a different text each time you do it, so you know you're doing the right
Yeah,
one.
usually, not always. Like, there were, like, again, in some scenarios where you come across a clue in a room or something, okay, I investigate that, I'm just going to give an example. I investigate the drawer. He says he found something. He doesn't record it in his thing or take the item. You have to look at it first, then he'll take it. But I already investigated it.
Annoying.
Like, really? He could have just made it into one thing? I have to both look and investigate and fucking make sure it's the right item, and then he'll take it and put it in his pocket or whatever.
I'm with you. Adventure games suck. Let's never play them again.
I don't think I'm a big fan of adventure games, but some.
I mean, I like adventure games. I fucking love King's Quest, and I love this game too. But it's like these little things they could have tweaked it a little better.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there is. There's always, especially in older. The farther back you get in adventure games, sometimes they're.
1988 was crazy when I read that was the first year this game came out. Like,
it's insane. This game was
wild.
Yeah.
Even if this version was like 6 years later, which is weird.
Wow, this game looks way better than any game from '88.
Well, the old version isn't quite as colorful because it's on older hardware. Like, there's a 6-year gap in between the original version and the CD version, but a lot of it is still sort of like a lot of the spirit is still maintained when I looked at it, and I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right. Hello?
I just lost my train of thought.
So, should we move on to recommendations then?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've said really all the things that I had to say about this game at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You guys? Anybody else?
I hated the ending. It came out of nowhere, and it took forever to get through, and I don't like villains' monologues.
The
just
villains
the monologue.
just explaining the whole plan without just like it was just
a painful exposition dump. I was like timing it myself. I hadn't pressed the button in like 15 minutes. I was like, holy shit.
I was more okay with it once you find out that like he had a personal history with them, right? Like it was just literally like I'm an evil man.
Like Modnar himself
history.
explaining everything makes sense. He's old, he's feeble. He's talking to the person he is like literally in love with, and wants to give an explanation of why he did everything. That makes sense. But the fucking Chinese dude that was in the hospital that was in charge of that operation,
very bad.
like all the Snatchers are like literally try to jump and kill you at the first chance they get. They shoot you and random right away in the leg and the arm. They incapacitate you. They could have ended right there, but no, the Chinese guy, for some reason you have no connections, you've never even encountered before, wants to explain everything or half the stuff to you why he's doing what.
It is hilarious that he's like, we're gonna be like the Nazis, and you're like, what?
He wants racial unification. What's so wrong with that?
He goes over the whole Snatcher's plan for the first time. It feels so out of place.
Yeah,
but it also
especially considering he's a Snatcher himself, and they don't really have emotions except for random because he's the perfect Snatcher. Whatever.
I think that it's implied that the Snatchers are smarter than just kill. You know, they go out and they live in public and this and that, and and they're basically their end goal is to take over all the world's leaders. So they're obviously smart enough in a way, but it does seem so random. But it also is like a trope. Such a trope. Just to have the bad guy stand there and give this fucking monologue of "This is our evil plan," while the good guys like kind of whisper to each other and say, "This is how we're gonna get out of here." It's very much a trope, and it's like it's kind of dumb, but it's not. It's not anything we haven't seen before in these stupid scenarios.
It's not the worst thing in the world. Like, the ending didn't make me hate the game, but I mean, I wasn't having fun in those 15 minutes. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to move on to recommendations. And I'm going to start with me, because I picked this game. And I'm going to say, definitely. I definitely recommend Snatcher. People, I had expectations going in because everybody said it was a fucking great game, and I gotta agree with all these people. So I'm now on the side of you should give this game a try. You should definitely play Snatcher. Noah.
I mean, it's a really good adventure game, good story. Definitely worth the experience. I don't know if it'd be worth it getting it on the Sega CD because that's probably expensive as fuck to get.
Definitely not.
Definitely. I mean, the game is very rare. It's a very rare game. It only sold a couple thousand copies in America. Yeah. It's not worth, if you can find it and get it for a decent price, then good for you, dude. You found yourself a treasure.
But if you can find it by other means, then definitely give it a try.
Play this game any way you can.
I'm not going to tell you to emulate it, but, wink, wink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's really good, especially in terms of adventure games of its genre. Mm-hmm. Or even if you're just a fan of Kojima, definitely, check it out.
That too.
Or if you're not a fan of Kojima, but you just like good games, then, I had a decent amount of fun, surprisingly enough, because I don't like adventure games. But this one drew me in with the good characters, good voice acting, good music, good scenario. There's a lot of things to like about this game. Yeah. So absolutely yes.
And it even goes like a little further beyond just the typical visual text adventure. Like you do have the action sequence with the gun, so that's fun too.
I hated the gun.
It was a nice diversion.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I would recommend it. It holds up. It's like I think the biggest compliment you can give some games like this, and this one does. Like there's little parts where it feels like, oh, they could have improved upon this, but I think it's a really solid package that even then, like even now there's still not a ton of games like it, both in its like scenario and in a lot of its gameplay. So yeah, I would recommend it 100%.
All right. Okay, guys. Well, now we're gonna move on to the list.
The list.
Follow along in the paste bin below.
I like that. That's become like the saying that we do, and it's always in that tone. Follow in the paste bin below.
Well, it's a fun way to go from screaming to a very calm way. The good
Program
contrast.
now. He's a snatcher. We programmed him.
Yeah.
The Snatchers are invading the list, everybody, and they're looking for their spot. And I'm gonna look at the list real quick. I just brought it up in front of me, so I haven't been looking at it until right now. So I got to kind of think for a second. I'm just gonna kind of monologue.
Delay for time, yeah.
While I
keep
do.
talking. Yeah.
Villain's monologue 101.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna explain my whole evil plan while you guys think of a way out of this. So yeah, it's a good game. I think it deserves a decent spot, but I'm just looking at.
Oh, usually when you start, like, you try to find a game that's similar to it, like it was same genre, same style, whatever.
Sure.
I feel like a lot of Discworld know, but it just blows it out of the water at this point.
God, don't even.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously games that other visual novels on the list, they're around the 50s right now. So Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, I think, is the lowest one on the list, the lowest visual novel on the list. Yeah, well,
I mean, it's the 50s on this list is pretty damn fucking good.
Yeah, it's just we only have like 3 visual novels, and I realize basically.
Yeah, there's not a ton of them on the list. So I mean, Phoenix Wright, I think all the Phoenix Wright games honestly might be better than this game. I don't know though. It's
weird because I feel like as a package in a game, like Phoenix Wright definitely is much better. But I really like the scenario and the atmosphere of the Snatcher.
It has a lot of similarities, honestly, to Phoenix Wright. Where, like, the characters are really fucking good, and they're like the driving factor of the whole game, And in the in-between downtime where you're doing investigating and searching, the banter between the characters is really what drives the game and keeps it from, getting boring. And they both do that very, very well. You have Maya in Phoenix, talking about stuff in between, even when it's options that aren't going to, keep the game going. It's always fun to see what they have to say. And same thing about Snatcher with Gillian and Metal.
I will say that Phoenix Wright has at least for me, had a higher tendency of leading to like a frustrating point where you just had to like search for something. You had to like pixel search the room. You had to like find out which evidence to give the judge, otherwise you're gonna lose like your health bar. I mean, I really like Phoenix Wright, but this game felt a lot less frustrating.
True, there are some times in Phoenix Wright where you're just like, you're given like all the options, right? You have all the testimonies, and you have to select the right testimony with the right evidence. And there were a couple, obviously there's times where you're like, oh, I know exactly what to do. And there's sometimes though where you're like, here goes.
They don't really give enough
right
clues
now
to give you an idea what you're supposed to do. Whereas with Snatcher, it's like it's obvious. The goal is obvious, kind of most of the time.
Kind of, yeah. And like in Phoenix Wright, in Snatcher, they never really punish you for getting the thing wrong. Like there's no punishment for
technically
in
Phoenix
option.
Wright, there's not really anything to punish because you can literally save right before you do anything. So
no, but I mean, if you do the judge, if you go to the judge and you give him the wrong evidence, he'll take away like your whole health bar basically if it's the wrong certain situations, and then you have to load through that whole thing, and it's kind of annoying.
You have to load the game up again.
Yeah.
I would say that Phoenix Wright, they are differently structured, right? Because Phoenix Wright is very case based, right? Where like there's the acts in Snatcher, but they all flow into each other a lot more, right? But I do think that like the moments when you are like breaking down the witness in Phoenix Wright are really good. Like they're
awesome.
And are super strong. I don't know. It's hard.
I personally would prefer Snatcher over Phoenix Wright. Just slightly, but the game surrounding Phoenix Wright is like tough to put Snatcher around. Like Stardew, Alundra, Golden Sun, Ghost Trick.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind putting it under Ghost Trick. But, I mean, I just think Alundra has to move up again.
The eternal struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, because I'm like, I like Snatcher, looking at, Chibi Robo, Golden Sun, Kirby's Epic Yarn, and stuff. Like, I'm honestly, I'm fine with putting it above those games.
Sure.
So,
I would say, the gate would be Ghost Trick for me, I feel.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah, because Ghost Trick is, also basically a visual novel, but there's a lot more
interaction in that game. It's like more puzzle solving, yeah.
Puzzle solving's better, and it kind of goes at like a
again,
pace.
Lovable characters.
And Missile,
yeah.
Never forget.
Yeah, and then Snatcher, you do find a dog, but that dies.
God.
In a very brutal way.
Yeah.
That was
one of the only times they turned the violence down.
Yeah, because the guts were twitching in the Japanese version.
Oh, jeez.
Brutal, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that part was like, holy shit. Well, Missile also dies, so,
Yeah, but he's peaceful.
Yeah, and he helps beyond the grave.
He's a good dog.
He's everything visual novels killing dogs. Come on, guys. We need to be better. We need to do better than this.
Maybe that's where Phoenix Wright has it better. It never killed a dog, so it has that over Snatch.
I will say, Missile dying helped you in the story anyway. So.
Yeah. Missile saved the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's honestly a pretty decent spot, right underneath Ghost Trick above Phoenix, right?
Yeah, alright. Yeah, it's not a bad spot. It's pretty good.
Alright.
Okay. Alright, so that would put Snatcher at number 55 on the list. Very, very good company surrounding it. So we would have number 53, Kid Icarus Uprising. Number 54, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, which was a Game Club game, by the way. So if you are interested in hearing us talk about that game, we said a little bit about it, but it's a very cool game. So go check out that episode. Number 55 is now Snatcher. Number 56, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, the OG original one. And number 57, Stardew Valley. So that is it for the list. And almost it for the episode. But don't leave yet, because I got a couple things I want to tell everybody out there. Including, we have social media where you can follow us and talk to us and get updates on everything going on in the Jump Up Supercast. And we have a Facebook, a Twitter, and a Instagram. So all of them, twitter.com/JumpUpSupercast, Facebook, all of them are /JumpUpSupercast. Easy to find, and you can follow us there and leave comments and talk to us and all that good shit. And we also have a Twitch, twitch.tv/JumpUpSupercast. Occasionally we play some video games on. We have the regular episodes every single Monday of the Jump Up Supercast, where we go over video game news and other topics going on in the game world, including the list where we add a game every single week. And every other Thursday, this game club that you just listened to, we do a game club every Thursday, or every other Thursday, sorry. So
imagine.
Every Thursday I would die. I do not have enough time in my life to play a video game every
barely have enough time in my life to play game club games.
I know you could do it.
Let me in.
Not a doubt. There's not a fucking doubt in my mind. There's not a doubt. But I couldn't. There's no way. Especially with football season coming up. Jesus. But yeah, so every other Thursday,
listen,
please.
The point is to renounce everything else but video games. Haven't you learned? Jesus. You don't need family, you don't need friends, you don't need sports. You need video games.
Just video games. That's all I need to keep me warm at night.
Goddamn right.
So you can follow us on all sorts of things and listen to us. And I guess this is the most important. You can listen to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you want to listen to us. Any podcatcher out there, whatever you listen to podcasts on, I'm sure you can find us. So make sure you subscribe, follow us, and all that stuff. Leave some comments, say some nice things. We're also on YouTube where you can listen to the podcast. And there's some other extra videos on there like Rankomania, Ranker Slam. We re-rank games on the list, so that's really fun. You can find those on YouTube. They're Twitch archives, so when we do them, we're going to do them live on Twitch as well. So it's just important, man. Just follow us on all these things. But before we leave, we gotta play. We gotta find out what game we're playing next week. 2 weeks, I guess. Jeez, I'm giving in to ills already. In 2 weeks.
Come over to the dark side.
God. And Will.
Hello.
My good pal. Hey, it's your turn, man.
Oh boy.
I hope you already have a game picked out.
Well,
I'm gonna assume you did.
I had a game, and then I looked at my bank account, and I thought, I don't want to spend money. I've decided. When we last did We Love Katamari, you said there's a type of game in the game club that is a will game. I hate to play into character, but this is a will game. It is called Chulip for the PlayStation 2.
Chulip?
CHULIP. This is a game that is made by Natsume, and it is a game all about kissing.
Oh boy!
How do you do
The whole
that?
thing.
What the hell am I gonna play?
That is I saw 10 minutes of this game. I thought, this looks insane. I don't know if it's good or bad. It'll be bad. But I want to know how you play a game where the one action you take is kissing.
Oh fuck.
So we're gonna do it. And until then, we'll come back in 2 weeks and maybe our lips will be chapped from all of the smooching. But until then, we're gonna play it, I guess.
So, well, I guess
Fucking yikes.
looking forward to smooching everyone.
Everyone. There's dogs, people.
12 hours. That's how long it is to take this beat. How long have you been kissing for? Jesus.
How long the beat says this is a 12-hour kissing game?
12-hour kissing
wait.
game.
Oh, jeez. All right, well, I guess...
We've been on a hot streak of good games. I wanted to break it.
Well, who knows? I've never played this game, but I've also never heard of it, so...
I've never heard of it either. This should be an experience, that's for sure.
So we're gonna find out in 2 weeks. So make sure you follow us and listen in, because it's gonna get. You should have saved this for February, Will.
I should have.
But it's gonna get hot and heavy. We're gonna be a lot of smooching. So fuck her up. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Appreciate you. Thank you, Ills. Thank you, Will, and thank you, Noah, for playing Snatcher with me, and always playing video games. And everybody, like I said, thank you for listening. So go out there, play some video games, and maybe smooch some people. Make sure that you have their consent first before you smooch them, and be nice.